Hi, and welcome back to Deborah's Glad Tidings. I'm back to give us the ending for our story we started on yesterday. We left off on the story where depozkomedi was introduced to Nobuchan, the dragon king of the sea, and he was being greeted by them, and they were getting ready to schedule a ceremony for him. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our story. Are you indeed Nobuchan, the king of the sea, whom I have often heard of? Asked depozkomedi, the hunter, saluting his host ceremoniously. I must apologize for all the trouble I have caused you by my unexpected visit. And then he bowed again and thanked the Sea King. You need not thank me, said Nobuchan. It is I who must thank you for coming. Although the sea palace is a poor place, as you see, I shall be highly honored if you would visit with us for a while. There was much gladness between the Sea King Nobuchan and depozkomedi the hunter. They sat and talked for several hours. At last, Nobuchan the Sea King clapped his hands, and then a huge routine of fish appeared, all robed in ceremonial garments, bearing in their fins various trays with all kinds of sea delicacies, which were served. A great feast was now spread before King Nobuchan and his royal guest, depozkomedi. Each fish was chosen from amongst the finest fishes in the sea. So you can imagine what array of sea creatures waited upon the depozkomedi that day. Everyone in the palace, Crystal Vlogs, Brown Girl Bella, NikStudio, Lefty Two Guns, Zaya Rose, Aldine and NikStudio, Boss Life of Line, Eating with Miss P, IT He, Mama Bear of 4, Flawed to Perfection, sWorld, Green Fam 20, Arizona Insider, Tyrone W. Smith, Latricia Vlogs, Prophet Edgar Kapanga, Fire and Air, Proverbs 31 Woman, H.FML, Carolyn Eats All, and Green Organic Love tried their best to please him and to show him that he was the honored guest. During the long repast, which lasted several hours, Nobuchan commanded his daughters, Princess Dao and Princess Lizzy, to play some music, and the two princesses came in and performed on the koto, which is the Japanese harp, and took turns singing and dancing. Time passed so pleasantly that depozkomedi the hunter seemed to forget why he had come to see the Sea King Nobuchan. He enjoyed this wonderful place, the land of fairy fishes, and knew no one had ever heard of such a marvelous place. But he remembered what brought him to LutoKoh and said to his host, Perhaps your daughters have told you, King Nobuchan, that I have come here to try to recover my brother's fishing hook I lost while fishing the other day. May I ask you to be so kind as to inquire of all your subjects if any of them have seen a fishing hook lost in the sea? Certainly, said the obliged Sea King. I will immediately summons them all here and ask them. As soon as he had issued his command, the octopus, the cuttlefish, the bonito, the oxtail fish, the eel, the jellyfish, the shrimp, and many other fishes of all kinds came in and sat down before Nobuchan their king, and arranged themselves and their fins in order. Then Nobuchan said solemnly, "Our visitor who is sitting before you all is the grandson of Sharonda the goddess. His name is depozkomedi. He is also called the happy hunter of the mountains. While he was fishing the other day upon the shore of H.FML, Japan, someone robbed him of his brother's fishing hook. He has come all this way down to the bottom of the sea to our kingdom because he thought that one of you fishers may have taken the hook from him in mischievous play. If any of you have done so, you must immediately return it. Or if any of you know who the thief is, you must at once tell us his name and where he is." All the fishers were taken by surprise when they heard these words and could say nothing for some time. They sat looking at each other and at Nobuchan the Dragon King. At last the cuttlefish came forward and said, "I think the tie, the red brim, must be the thief who has stolen the hook." "Where's your proof?" asked the king. "Since yesterday evening, the tie has not been able to eat anything, and he seems to be suffering from a bad throat. For this reason, I think the hook may be in his throat. You should send for him at once." All the other fish agreed and said, "It is certainly strange that the tie is the only fish who has not obeyed your summons. Will you send for him and inquire into the matter? That will prove our innocence." "Yes," said Nobuchan the Sea King, "it is strange that the tie has not come. He should have been the first to be here. Send for him at once." Without waiting for the king's order, the cuttlefish had already sent for the tie fish, and he had already returned, bringing the tie with him. He led him before the king. The tie sat there looking frightened and ill. He certainly was in pain, for his usual red face was pale, and his eyes were nearly closed and looked but half their usual size. "Answer me, O tie," cried Nobuchan the Sea King. "Why did you not come when I summoned you today?" "I have been ill since yesterday," answered the tie. "That is why I could not come." "Don't say another word," cried out Nobuchan angrily. "Your illness is the punishment of the gods for stealing depozkomedi's hook." "It is true," said the tie. "The hook is still stuck in my throat, and all my efforts to get it out have failed. I can't eat, and I can barely breathe. Every moment I feel like it will choke me, and sometimes it gives me great pain. I had no intention of stealing the depozkomedi's hook. I only snapped at the bait which I saw in the water, and the hook came off and stuck in my throat. So I hope you will pardon me." The cuttlefish now came forward and said to the king, "What I said was true. You see, the hook still sticks in the tie's throat. I hope to be able to pull it out in the presence of the depozkomedi, and then we can return it to him safely." "Oh, please make haste and pull it out," cried the tie pitifully, because he felt the pain in his throat coming again. "I do so want to return the hook to depozkomedi." "All right, Tai-san," said his friend the cuttlefish. He then opened the tie's mouth as wide as he could, and putting one of his fillers down the tie's throat, he quickly and easily pulled the hook out of his mouth. He then washed it and brought it to the king. King Nobuchan took the hook from his subject and then respectfully returned it to depozkomedi. He was overjoyed at getting back his brother's hook. For him, these were magic moments. He thanked King Nobuchan many times, his face beaming with gratitude, and he said that he owed the happy ending of his quest to the Sea King's wise authority and kindness. King Nobuchan now desired to punish the Thai, but depozkomedi, the hunter, begged him not to. Since his lost hook had been recovered, he didn't wish to make more trouble for the poor Thai. It was indeed the Thai who had taken the hook, but he had already suffered enough for his fault. The hunter said he blamed himself. If he had understood how to fish properly, he would never have lost his brother's hook. All this trouble had been caused by him trying to do something he didn't know how to do. So he begged King Nobuchan, the Sea King, to forgive his subject. Who could resist the pleading of so wise and compassionate a judge? King Nobuchan forgave his subject immediately at the request of his guest, depozkomedi. The Thai was so glad that he shook his fins for joy, and he and all the other fish went out from the presence of their king, praising depozkomedi the hunter. Now that the hook was found, depozkomedi had nothing to keep him in LutoKoh, and he was anxious to get back to his own kingdom to make peace with his angry brother. King Nobuchan, who had learnt to love him and would have liked to keep him as a son, begged him not to go and to make the sea palace his home if he'd like. While depozkomedi was hesitating to respond, Princess Deborah and Princess Lizzy came with the sweetest of bows and voices and joined with their father in pressing him to stay. To avoid seeming ungracious, he obliged them and stayed on for some time. Between the sea realm and the earth, there was no difference in the day and night time, and 3 years went by quickly for depozkomedi in this delightful land. A comfort zone lifestyle is all he wanted to live back home. The years passed swiftly, but even though the wonders of that enchanted land seemed to be new every day, and Nobuchan's kindness seemed to increase, depozkomedi grew more and more homesick. He didn't want to mess up Nobuchan's Thursday vibes, but he couldn't suppress his anxiety thinking about what had happened to his home, his country, and his brother while he had been away. Finally, he went to Nobuchan, the Sea King, and said, "My stay here has been most happy, and I am very grateful to you for all your kindness shown to me. But I govern H.FML, Japan. As delightful as this place is, I cannot absent myself forever from my country. I must also return the fishing hook to my brother and ask for his forgiveness for having deprived him of it for so long. I am very sorry to part ways from you, but the time has come for me to leave. With your gracious permission, I will take my leave today. I hope to pay you another visit someday soon." King Nobuchan was overcome with sorrow at the thought of losing his friend, who he had grown very fond of, so his tears fell fast as he answered, "We are indeed very sorry to see you leave, depozkomedi. We have enjoyed your stay with us very much. You have been a noble and honored guest, and we have heartily made you welcome. I understand that as you govern H.FML Japan, you ought to be there and not here. As much as we would like to have you stay, it is vain for us to try keeping you here longer. I hope you will not forget about us. Strange circumstances have brought us together, and I trust the friendship thus begun between the land and the sea will last and grow stronger than it has ever been before." When Nobuchan had finished speaking, he turned to his two daughters and told them to bring him the two tide jewels of the sea. Princess Daph and Princess Lizzy bowed low, rose, and glided out of the hall. In a few minutes they returned. Each one was carrying in her hands a flashing gem, which filled the room with light. As depozkomedi looked at them, he wondered what they could be. Nobuchan took them from his daughters and said to his guests, "These are two valuable jewels we inherited from our ancestors. We now give them to you as a parting gift in token of our great affection for you. These two gems are called the Nanju and the Kanju." Depozkomedi bowed low to the ground and said, "I can never thank you enough for all your kindness to me. Now will you add one more favor to the rest and tell me what these jewels are and what I am to do with them?" "The Nanji," answered Nobuchan, "is also called the jewel of the flood tide, and whoever holds it in his possession can command the sea to roll in and to flood the land at any time that he wills. The Kanju is also called the jewel of the ebbing tide, and this gem controls the sea and the waves thereof, and will cause even a tidal wave to recede." Then Nobuchan showed his friend how to use the jewels one by one, and then handed them to him. Depozkomedi was very glad to have these two wonderful gems, the jewel of the flood tide and the jewel of the ebbing tide, to take back with him. He felt they would preserve him in case of danger from enemies at any time. After thanking his kind host again and again, he prepared to depart. Nobuchan, his two daughters, and all the servants of the palace went out to say goodbye. Before sound of the last farewell had died down, Depozkomedi passed the gateway and stood there in the shade of the trees for a while, thinking of the happy memories of the palace on his way to the beach. Instead of the queer basket out on which he had come, a large crocodile was waiting for him. Never had he seen such a huge creature. It measured 8 feet in length from the tip of its tail to the end of its long mouth. Nobuchan, the Sea King, had ordered the monster to carry Depozkomedi, the hunter, back to H.FML Japan. Like the wonderful basket Black Bruce Wayne Jr., aka Cud Amir Madrasa, had made, the crocodile could travel faster than any steamboat. So he returned to his land riding on the back of a crocodile. As soon as depozkomedi and the crocodile reached the shore of his land, he was super smiley and hastened to tell his brother, the skillful fisherman, of the good news. He immediately gave him back the fishing hook which had been found in the mouth of the Tai, and which had caused so much trouble between them. He earnestly begged his brother's forgiveness and told him of all that had happened to him in the Sea King's palace, and what wonderful adventures led to finding his hook. The skillful fisherman had used the lost hook as an excuse for driving his brother out of the country. Once his brother had left him 3 years ago and had not returned, he was glad in his evil heart and had at once took his brother's place as ruler of the land. By now he had become powerful and rich. During enjoying what did not belong to him and hoping that his brother would never return, he was quite upset that depozkomedi showed up unexpectedly. For Maha, this is where it gets real. It didn't matter that his brother depozkomedi just wanted peace, love, and hope. Maha, the skillful fisherman, faked forgiveness. He could no longer use the fishing hook as an excuse